I'm actually newly diagnosed. I started experiencing symptoms last June. The first symptoms I experienced were very sharp abdominal pains, cramping, blood in my stool. I was running to the bathroom with diarrhea more than 10 times a day. At first, I thought that maybe I had just gotten a bug or I had eaten something wrong, so I let it go. And then about 2 weeks later, I realized that something was really wrong with my body. At that point in time, I did not have health insurance, so I went to the emergency room. At the emergency room, they did just basic blood work and a rectal exam, and I was diagnosed with gastroenteritis at first. He sent me home with medication, 2 different antibiotics, and about probably 2 weeks later, I was on the last day of my antibiotics course and realized that something was really still not right. My symptoms were getting worse. I was experiencing more blood, and I was having, at that point, I was vomiting as well on top of it. So the antibiotics hadn't worked for me. I ended up back in the emergency room, and they, I ended up back in the emergency room, and this time they did a CT scan. They redid the blood work. They did another rectal exam, and the CT scan came back showing the inflammation in my large intestine. At that point, the doctor started telling me that I needed to get in to see a gastroenterologist and started mentioning Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis. They sent the referral over to my primary care doctor, and unfortunately, my primary care doctor was dragging her feet. So I ended up back in the emergency room 4 more times after that, and luckily there was a nurse there that had seen me struggling from the beginning who kind of pushed my referral through to a surgeon, and he actually ended up doing the colonoscopy about a month later. When I came out of surgery, he said that my entire colon was involved. I had a severe case of colitis, and I was extremely malnourished. I was anemic. I had low hemoglobin, low potassium, just everything out of whack. He admitted me one night for observation, and the next morning he came in and we found out that I actually had C. diff on top of it, which was complicating it. So they started me on vancomycin and Flagyl to kind of treat that. It took a while to get rid of it because C. diff is a really nasty infection that kind of hangs around. Anyway, so once they got rid of it, he wanted my gastroenterologist that I had been able to get in and see and get health insurance and all of that in this time frame. He wanted my gastroenterologist to go through and redo the scope just to clarify that it was ulcerative colitis, because C. diff, I guess, can mimic in the pathology reports. Anyways, I ended up being hospitalized twice, waiting on the second colonoscopy for blood transfusions and iron infusions. Again, we started Humira back in October. I was doing the biweekly injections, and they didn't really work at first. So they bumped me on a high level of prednisone to try to get the inflammation under control while going through this. My second colonoscopy happened in January and confirmed my diagnosis of ulcerative colitis. And since then, I've gone through just a number of lab tests and going in and getting vitamins and fluids and stuff to make sure that I stay hydrated and everything on top of it. So right now I'm on weekly injections of Humira, and I'm back on a high dose of prednisone again, unfortunately. But at the same time, it's kind of given me a little bit of my life back, because it's kind of controlling the inflammation until we find a medication that hopefully works for me long term.